Good day, my fellow Americans and good people of the world. Today, I would like to address you in regards to the present situation. As I see it, America needs a president who is sharp, decisive, and a strategist that is adept at solving problems and can ultimately manage by seeing the bigger picture. They need to do so while empowering the people to work on smaller issues so that effect can compound to address larger issues so that we may resolve our differences and work out our necessary problem-solving structures to make sure that America achieves the necessary outcomes that gets us where we need to be in the present. There are challenging times that we are facing in terms of where America stands. And because of this present situation, America needs a president that will pay attention to the details. That president needs to be accountable. They need to be able to be counted on and relied upon. And they need to pay attention to which details actually count, so that we can avoid delay on the useless irrelevancies of antiquated notions or the political theater in which the distractions of campaigns take us away from the proper focus of what we need to achieve as a country that is in the constant process of refining and perfecting our union. America's 47th president must be helpful at providing balance, hope, reconciliation, and be adept at advantaging the transformative powers of temperance to bring together opposite forces and to keep a constant flow of energy, ideas, and productive people working together in a cohesive unit that is capable of addressing the physiological, environmental, emotional, psychological, societal, and planetary levels of alchemy, which is a sense of being able to transmute existing attachments into a spiritual aspiration that realizes the aspirations of the American spirit. The president needs to be capable of taking on a whole systems approach to prepare compounding effects to accelerate outcomes that work at solving for what America needs in order to work for 100% of the people here in the shortest time possible without ecological offense or the disadvantage of anyone. America's president should offer a spark of inspiration for our future selves so that we can, in our becoming process, move towards and rise into that occasion. So that we can establish for ourselves future schemes in the present adventures, that we can take on the responsibility and duty and the service necessary to be a country. We need to have a sense of commitment to take the benefits of our shared experiences from the past and to learn from the present and mingle them together in a way to build out for a better future for everyone's best interest. Now, I don't think that there is any, in this current election, there is the illusion of party loyalties that are being bannered around as if they are a symbol of hatred for the other candidate or hatred for the particular party that they're opposing. And I don't think that that's giving us any sense of real identity with what America stands for. And it has America being pulled apart at the seams. Many Americans are willing to overlook the deficiencies of their chosen candidate, and just so that they don't have to accept the potential of the other candidate having maybe something better to offer. And as a consequence of following blindly with this loyalty to their chosen candidate, it could lead the American people to be deceived in terms of what's actually being played out amongst all the distractions. You know, what is your political candidate actually offering in terms of the administration that they intend to implement when they get into office if you do vote them in? Unfortunately, these people prefer to convince themselves that all is well with their chosen candidate rather than face the uncomfortable truths that perhaps the person that they are trying to vote into office maybe doesn't have the best interests of the country at heart. America needs to find a way to work together for establishing stability, confidence, and to secure a firm foundation for the future, so that America of now and the America that is to come has a solid base on which to build our nation as a whole. As a people, we need to invest in the business of stewardship for people, civilization, planet, and even consciousness itself. We need to invest in small community projects that get people themselves to do the good and necessary work that is close to home, and empower success in the venture of stewardship that invite everybody into the experiential, economic, and mutual benefits of stewardship. And we need to have a president that can administer to us the capacity to set our minds at ease with assurances that even in these uncertain times, America can take an approach on a new path where opportunities beckon all of us to become hopeful and courageous and young at heart, to take on risks that are ahead of us and embark on this new adventure, one that is an idealistic quest of fulfillment of the American identity. Taking heed of the practicalities, of course, and heralding in a new era for our nation. We need a president that will help America be a place that's worthy to call home, and a president that will make sure that America is a place that is providing for the people all that is necessary for them to live a thriving, enriching life. America really needs, now more than ever, a natural and caring president. A maternal leader would be one that could achieve these. A maternal president, a feminine president, has the capacity to be more sensitive, insightful, nurturing of others and themselves. They can be in touch with their intuition and take notes of the hopes and the dreams and the aspirations and the deep needs of the people. A woman president could be the one who could produce adequate outcomes that consciously and adequately considers and embodies the consciousness of the people, the will of the people, embodying in the offerings of their administration the things which will embody what the people themselves say that they want to have in terms of achieving favorable working conditions, favorable conditions in economic development, favorable conditions in terms of a social mobility, and securities for old age and opportunities for youth in the future. The president also needs to work out favorable conditions to resolve legal matters, seeing to it that the Constitution applies to whatever the situation that it needs to apply to. Whatever the situation may be, the president needs to be determined in their efforts to strengthen America's just governance in terms of a democratic republic. They must be resolute, and there must be a simple objective of good governance, which is to establish law, resolution, and balance. And when there is a miscarriage of justice, we need a president there to set things straight. We need a type of president that when decisions go against the actual will of the people, they will step up and do the work that's necessary to reverse the position, to restore law, so that law is in the favor of the best interest of the people. And when a straightforward situation becomes unnecessarily complicated and true facts of the matter become hidden, the president needs to seek out the truth and hold fast to their beliefs in the perfection of our union. A true, worthy president knows that other people may act in a biased way. And you must consider if your president is actually someone that deserves your vote. You must know that other candidates are acting with bias, and often their campaigns distract people with this senseless pageantry of controversies, so that the people themselves who are going to be casting vote may be willing to overlook those who can truly support them in the difficult times that lie ahead for America. America's 47th president shouldn't be the outcome of a popularity contest. The president should help the people judge themselves and others kindly, and to help everyone hold the nation to account for the integrities of our Constitution. The president should understand the original spirit of intent of the Declaration of Independence and constantly reiterate that founding principle in our lives, and to make sure that we are upholding our duties to the Bill of Rights, our civil rights and human rights, and to make sure that we're practicing just good humanity. America, it is really time for a reckoning, and we must reclaim the White House this year and return it to the people. So that means we need a president in the White House who's going to bring the people along with them, so that in a deliberate, intentional way, the people themselves are actually going to influence this nation, not just be represented by government and political figures. The hard work of care and concern of the people, which respects the political process but also is concerned with the well-being of the people and wants to make sure that the people have their voices heard and that their concerns are addressed, needs to be approached by this next president. And we need to make sure that there is a way for the president to correct the continuing controversies that our nation is facing. Those things which are arising from the dysfunctions of the corruptness within the branches of government. And so that's why I believe the 47th president of the United States should make it their personal endeavor to advance by every means necessary the establishment of what I refer to as the 28th Amendment of the Constitution, which would be the allotment of powers for the people in establishing a fourth branch of government that's called the civics branch. A civics branch of government gives the people themselves the power to self-govern. It gives the people the power to establish anti-corruption mechanisms so that they are actually able to hold their leaders to account when their leaders are deceiving people, they are not doing their jobs properly, or they are participants in a miscarriage of justice. We need to have a way for people to have the capacity to be in service to the nation, so that when laws are being created, they are laws that are necessary, and that they don't complicate people's lives even further or impose the government's will on the people, which then infringes on their rights, their liberties, and subdues their freedoms. We need to make sure that the liberty of the people is put as the outcome ends of all endeavors of law. And when government officials are corrupt, and by corrupt I mean bribery or backroom handshakes and deals, the constant influx of lobbyists coming and persuading the government officials and politicians to create laws that are putting a significant number of Americans at a disadvantage in order to advantage a particular party interest or a particular industry or a particular company. The American people need to be able to put a stop to that and call it out when they see it. And by establishing a fourth branch of government, we will have a mechanism by which the people themselves can address those corruptions and publicize them in such a way that those in positions of power can be held to account. This is one of the crucial, necessary aspects of having a nation that has free press. Free press is there not just so that we can speak our minds, but so that we can speak truth to power, and so that we can hold them to account for any attempts at nefarious intent. We need to make sure that their bad actions are being held to the foil so that the people can see what's happening, and that rather than being hidden behind these veils of government authority, the truth of what the government is doing in terms of serving the people is laid out in a transparent way so that the people themselves can redress the government if they are not serving the best interest of all people involved. When the government is not serving the people, but just a few people, this is a miscarriage of justice. We need to make sure that the people themselves have a capacity through our legal system, our legal structure, to be a corrective mechanism, an anti-corruption mechanism. And the civics branch of government would help to build that system into government. And just like any branch of government can hold any of the other branches to account, the civics branch would actually put the power into the hands of the people so they can redress the situations that are relevant to them. So all relevant stakeholders are at the table and are being able to discuss the matter, instead of somebody that's so far removed from the consequences of an action that they have no idea what actually the impact is being made. So all relevant stakeholders would be able to be at the table by establishing a civics branch that says this is the place for those relevant people to come and speak, to make sure their voice is heard, and to make sure that the outcome consequences that are negative are being brought to light, saying this is actually what your policy implemented and made come out. Instead of us constantly having to sue the government for failure to serve the people, we will have an actual seat at the table for people to call out government officials for not doing their job, or for doing their job in such a way that actually goes against the best interests of the people. This makes sure that we have better access for these considerations to be heard, and for that to be publicized and transparent. So though the relevant stakeholders are the ones at the table discussing the matter, the entire nation is able to see it for what it's worth and understand that what the government is trying to do in these ways may not be actually serving the best interests of what people would actually want to have as an outcome. We need to be able to advance forward the will of the people, and the only way to do that is to make sure that people have a seat at the table in government to be able to create an advancement in a certain direction. The people need to be able to help to establish the legislative laws by presenting bills to Congress that then Congress can turn into laws by considering those bills and putting them into the context of a law. Instead of having lobbyists who are working for a particular interest that are quite easily able to hijack the justice system, hijack our legal processes in Congress. Instead, we will make sure that first and foremost, the people themselves are the ones that determine the grounding in their rights and their responsibilities, to make sure that the laws that are being created and interpreted into a law through Congress is actually something that the people themselves want to have happen. And then the other aspect of the civics branch is it creates a domain of the individual, preserved and protected personhood of the individual, so that no law can be created that infringes upon a person's identity, a person's sense of self-autonomy. It would make it impossible for the government to deny any person access to health care or to prevent them from making choices of their own accord, such as whether they choose to be a parent or not. Or if they choose to alter their physicality in some form or fashion to express themselves who they truly feel they are inside. These sorts of things are all about personhood, the personal domain of the individual, self-autonomy, self-governance. And the government does not have the right to come and impose itself upon the people, though they try to interpret the law in such a way. But establishing the civics branch of government says the government does not have dominion over me as an individual, but I hold ultimate dominion over myself. And the government is there to make sure that my dominion and the way I choose to live my life does not infringe or impose upon other people's sense of identity and dominion, in a sense of like it will directly impact or alter or subject or subdue an individual's life if you go about living a certain way. And so the idea of having a civics branch is to give people a firm footing to stand their ground in a system of governments, so that no matter whether the approach is economically or it's approached in a sense of national security or approached in a sense of public safety or the livability of our cities, we can call every person to account that you are responsible for your own personal self-governance, and that the government itself is there to help to make sure that we maintain a sense of balanced neutrality amongst each other as we go about living with one another in our own various versions of pursuit of happiness. To make sure that people understand what the laws are, because they're simple enough to understand, and the people themselves are the ones that help to create it, so that they can self-govern and when necessary get corrected by outside forces that say you need to come back into alignment with what is considered civil and just in our society, and respecting the self-preservation of each person's individual autonomous personhood and their personal dominion. That's why the civic branch is necessary to have. It's because we are now eliminating from the conversation of governments many of the things that we have been arguing about over the years, over whether or not it's okay for the government to determine what a woman does with her body, or for the government to determine what it's okay with somebody to do in terms of wanting to be addressed with a particular pronoun, or the government can determine whether or not somebody gets to be married in a union with a person that is of the same sex. Like, these are things that are individual and that have to do with the individual's life lived out. It doesn't impose upon anybody else anything other than perhaps if that person doesn't agree with that particular lifestyle, it may be upsetting to them to know somebody's living that particular way. But no other person should be able to come in from the outside and tell somebody from the inside, you can't be who you are inside. You can't be true to who you are because it goes against my sense of moralities or my sense of personal beliefs. And the fact that the government tries to impose itself to say that it has the right to force upon people a certain type of ideology in terms of how they get to live is wrong. I mean, the government surely can say, thou shalt not kill. That's perfectly fine, because we can all agree that it's a bad thing to do that. But for the government to say that that you are in some sort of violation of the law if you choose to abort a pregnancy that by itself, without the woman vessel carrying it to completion of birth, that entity couldn't live on its own outside of the womb, then the government is overstepping a bounds there, because it's not an actual full-fledged life that can live independently on its own. And that until that point, it's entirely up to the woman and her sense of whether it's right or wrong for her life choice if she's going to do that. I don't think that the government has any bounds or any legal precedents by which it's okay for them to infringe upon the autonomous personhood of a woman. Moving on from that, the whole concept is that the civics branch says that a woman is autonomous. She gets to make the decisions for her own life. Government cannot impose itself over the top of that. There are necessities in our nation that says that People need to understand that they have rights and that they have responsibilities. And that ultimately our Constitution says that the powers that aren't directly vested in the government rests with the people. And the government has been trying to convince people over time that they have way more power than they actually ever deserved or even should possibly have. And it's time to take that back. And the civics branch gives us that opportunity. It says that the government doesn't get to come in and tell you what to do, what to think, what to feel, who to be. Those are personal life choices. The government is just there to make sure that our life choices are not being imposed on other people to a point where it would disadvantage their lives and their capacity to live and their own sense of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. So the civics branch is essentially creating an insulary effect for people to be protected from government intrusion into their lives, so that the government can't infringe on a person's liberties or reject their sense of identity or personhood or deny them any sorts of freedoms. These are already promised to us in the Constitution, but now we need to lay it out straight, because we can't depend on the government to interpret the Constitution's implications of this. That was, suggested in the continuum of going from the Declaration of Independence that said, yes, we are free and independent people, into a constitution that says this is how we become free and independent people and remain so, and that law is supposed to be an ever-perfect union of the interpretation of that constitutional law that is embodying the American identities set in the Declaration of Independence. And if we have a government system that is saying, well, no, we're going to pervert the interpretation of the Constitution to bend it, in the direction that we want it to go so that we can infringe upon people's liberties, then it's becoming, a tyranny of those who are in power. And so having a civics branch of government prevents that from happening by saying, no, we actually do, and we're taking back our power and we're giving it back to the people and making sure that they're the ones that are ultimately responsible. They're the ultimate decision makers in their life. And the government is just there to help to moderate and make sure that we are progressing together in an ever more perfect union, and to create an armed neutrality amongst us all, a means to go through the justice system to make corrections when things go astray. The appropriate language for the Constitution has space in it that we can take the voice of the people and inform policy. If we bring them into the full meridian of our Constitution, establish 4 pillars of our government system, the people themselves can actually petition to redress a situation most directly, to make sure that they themselves are actually viable, vital, significant, determining, stabilizing, distinctive part of government, so that their rights are embodied in that civics branch and not to be taken away by an act of Congress or by a presidential executive order. So basically what I'm saying is that the civics branch is about the people taking back the power. They're holding it for themselves, and they're holding other branches of government to account to make sure that whatever they do in their capacity to govern is in the best interest of the people and don't infringe upon these civic rights. And so with that, the idea is taking feedback from the people in this civics branch, so you understand the language of the people so that we can help use that in the interpretation of the Constitution. And so specifically, this personal domain allows for us to create a corrective mechanism in government so that the initiation of policy within government is taking a holistic approach to what the people are actually saying serves their best interests. So the basic language, the actual language of law, the people put that in and inform the language in the crafting of a bill, and then that's simplified in the ways that the Congress themselves understand how to establish a law, so that it's determining the understanding of rights, understanding responsibilities, understanding the law as it stands. And in terms of understanding, well, if that's how our people are starting to view and interpret their sense of unity, we can perfect our union along the lines of what the people are actually saying they want to see our nation become in its full expression. and for that to be an evolving process. The Constitution says it, an ever more perfect union. This is part of the process. We're supposed to be ever perfecting ourselves, befit the times. So the people themselves need to be a part of the informative process. They need to be a part of the process of where laws are being created. They need to be part of the process in terms of how funds from taxes are going to be allocated and where they're going to go, and what types of taxes are actually justifiable to be levied. And let them have an opportunity to determine where some portions of those taxes can go in terms of investment, so the people themselves can involve themselves with determining what sort of projects that the government's going to take on, rather than the government being able to determine who in their little, circle group of people are going to be able to get the benefits of government spending. In order to do that, we do have to have a system of collecting data and information from the people directly, in informing systems in an unbiased way, so the people can actually get what they want, need, and deserve. And then there needs to be a place within government that people can address. So writing in letters or calling and speaking to somebody specifically, so their concerns can be heard. And all of that information is put into a relevant structured framework that interprets it and then distills it down to the essence of what actually matters in terms of what the people are asking for. And such a system needs to make sure that it's not being bogged down by irrelevancies of people that are just coming to waste time, effort, and energy on useless and unnecessary distractions that actually don't serve to keep people in guidance in terms of how we actually need to work together in pursuit of a similar ideal. So the idea of the civics branch of government is to keep us in touch with each other and to keep government in touch with the people, so that what the people actually say gets turned into a bill that Congress is able to address and create efficiencies in that system, so it's actually governable, so it's actually a law that can be enforced and implemented, and then make sure that the people know and understand what that law is about, and that they have skin in the game too. That people are responsible for their freedom, and their hands are needing to be applied in order for government to actually work effectively. If we have a government that says everyone is a part of the process, then we truly do have a democracy. The more direct we can get with that, the better our representation is going to be able to reflect the will of the people. There are certain specific ways to achieve outcomes, but ultimately we have to make sure in our nation that the people's voice is crafting our union, and that America is serving the best interest of all people here, 100% of the people here. And we need to make sure that that government bureaucracies doesn't shut down our government system from functioning. We need to make sure that existing diversities and differences are able to be a bridge through effective policy. We need to create safe space for everybody to exist in, and so that their freedoms and liberties are not put at a disadvantage by anyone else. And we need to make sure the entire concept of government checks and balances is being so crafted by the voice of the people, so that people are incorporated into government. They have a seat at the table, and government is developing ways to grow our nation as we the people, which is the original spirit of intent. We need to make sure that there's no fringe elements of political ideologies that are able to dismantle the structures of effective government. We need to make sure that when it comes down to brass tacks, that we recognize that people all want the same thing. They want to live in a healthy, stable nation that is going to protect them from outside nefarious bad actors with nefarious intent, and that is going to allow them to live within the safe space of our nation to the best of their ability, the best lives that they can achieve, and that successes in this nation are achievable, they're accessible for all people to get involved with and pursue their own version of happiness and live a life that is considered a fulfillment of their own life purpose. We need to make sure that our government is in service to help people feel the pride of what it means to be an American. That we want to achieve a nation that is safe space for freedom to happen. And when I think about that, it initially becomes a crucial element to make sure that we have a president who is willing to carve out an amendment in our Constitution that sets our Constitution straight, befit the times. We now have the capacity, technologically, innovatively, to be able to create a direct democracy. And we need to set it in our Constitution so we have a civic branch of government that establishes a direct democracy. In that distinguishment of personhood and the domain of the individual as being fully autonomous from the government's infringement on their sense of self, personhood, and identity, so they can choose how to live their own life as long as it's not harming others and their life choices, we will make sure that America is not putting anyone at a disadvantage in the world, that they're not destroying the planet or allowing others to destroy the planet. These sorts of things need to make sure we have freedoms and liberties, but they come with responsibilities to keep ourselves united as a cohesive unit, a cohesive nation that spends our valuable time and attention considering what it is that we are offering to ourselves and to our posterity and to the world at large. We need to make sure that the practicalities of what our nation's directives are not based off of the wills and the whims of a political ideology that wants to assert their authority over everybody else. A true government is about empowering the people for liberties, not asserting over these people authorities. They need to lead people in such a way that it commands their attention and gets them to consider what is most influential and most prosperous for all people in society. We need to be able to elect somebody as a president who does not try to take on that role of leadership by winning over some popularity contest. I myself have a vision for the future that I believe would make me an outstanding president. I would be able to lead this nation into establishing a fourth branch of government, empowering the individuals, and then mutually bringing us together in terms of a lifelong continuum of approach to achieve stewardship of people, communities, our nation, society, civilization, the planet, and consciousness itself, and keep us moving on a track record of success long into the future, long after my terms. And to hold a sense of moral legitimacy in that approach so that every incoming president would be able to build upon that and that it would serve the best interests of the people. I'm not interested in winning popularity contests. I'm not interested in going about and trying to garner public attention and get everybody to focus on me or to establish an infighting against the other side so that I can be the candidate that wins over that other candidate. I don't want to make people fail in their capacity to see what America actually needs in order for us to move forward in the best direction. I don't want to distract people with political ideologies, and I don't want to distract people with infighting. I want to make sure that people recognize the necessities of fairness and justice in our society. I want to serve the best interest of everyone without the disadvantage of anyone, and I want people to focus on that rather than on me. I'm not here to make them spend their time and attention on me, but rather to help them to afford the time and attention that is necessary so that they can pursue in their life what will bring out the best for them, but also involves in the future that we are establishing and creating together. I will not give up on my commitment to follow through on this determination that I want to create a continuum for America, to have a branch of government, and for us to become a nation of stewards, because I believe that's what's the best interest of our nation. It is the best path moving forward, and it will serve everyone and bring about an America we can truly be proud of. To me, it only takes one person to be able to see a better way and to continue to offer that in a substantial and significant opportunities that we develop out so that people can choose from in their own ways how they want to become involved. I want the people to really consider the elements that I'm offering here. what would that actually do in terms of playing out in your personal life? You know, what I'm offering is not rooted in any sort of controversies or pointing to this person to cast blame for something that, you know, may or may not have been their fault. Everything is so messed up because people are trying to blame other people, trying to focus on what's going wrong with our nation and not giving us any pointers or any pathway to redress any of it. You know, most of the political approaches today are backtracking on the making sure that America is living in accordance with that overall objective of an ever more perfect union. You know, our job should be to achieve that. And I know that my voice is small, and I recognize the capacity when many voices come together, though they may be small, they become a mighty force for change. And right now, there is a potential for a tipping point in either direction for America. We can either go down a path that continues to do things the way that we have been doing it, and maybe not lead to such a desirable nation, the outcome may not be in the best interest of all people. Or we can choose for ourselves right now that we are all going to become involved and that we are all going to pursue what's in the best interest of everybody. And then see where that takes us. You know, instead of choosing beside the dichotomies of lesser evils, let's just choose righteousness for ourselves so that we all make the right decisions. You may be hearing your potential political candidate dropping their names constantly on platforms and amongst public influencers, so their name is constantly being repeated in your head. So when you go to the polls, all you're going to think about is that person. Or they keep, you know, opposing their opponent and shining them in a bad light so that when you go to the polls, when you see their name, you're like, well, I certainly don't want to vote for that person. I'm going to vote for the other guy. I want to make sure that when you go into the polls, what you're thinking about is the fact that you are signing in your name in full commitment to a future that you actually want to involve yourself in, that you actually want to pursue this future together. And that it's not talking about who's right or who's wrong. It's literally, this is the best interest of all people involved. And this is going to get us somewhere where we would actually want to go. It's going to take time, effort, and energy, but I am all in on the efforts it's going to take to make that happen. I am not interested in performance of political pageantry. That's not governance. When you listen to policies that some of the people that are running are proposing right now, it sounds a lot like the same old, trying to advantage certain parts of the population over other parts of the population at the cost and disadvantage of so many people. I want to be able to find common ground in our country based on a mutual benefit, mutual securities, mutual interest, mutual outlook, in a mutual endeavor that gets us all looking at the world in a unique way, new to our history, that says never before have we ever tried this way, but we're going to put in our best efforts to try it. And at least under these terms and conditions of interpreting the Constitution in such a way that we really are a nation of the people, that when we work together, there's no way that things can completely fall apart because we have each other's back. We may disagree on some things, but that doesn't mean that we're all going to completely fall apart, because we're in the process of perfecting our union. Where we may falter in some areas, we can recover and we can reconcile in others. We can come together to stitch together this beautiful fabric of creation that is our government. And the United States is more than just a government. It's more than just the American identity. It's about achieving the promise that we set into the elements of our Constitution and our Declaration. We're here to create a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. We need to make sure that people have a place within the Constitution that says you are part of the powers that be, and this includes power of self-governance. You are responsible, and there are accountabilities that come with that. And you, too, can hold the government accountable to their responsibilities. And when we're all working together in a collective pursuit of a common interest, a common through line, then we're going to become a nation that is not just about the productivity of our outcomes, or not just about our economy and the GDP, but we are actually conforming ourselves to achieve something together. And that concept, I believe, that America needs to be able to work together towards is stewardship. If you are stewarding yourself, your family, your home, your community, and we're stewarding our nation together, we're stewarding our youth, and we're stewarding the future, and restoring the integrities of our government and of our nation, you know what that means? The planet itself becomes a reward for our efforts. The planet begins to improve because of our stewardship efforts. You know, the power of human consciousness improves. We become ever more aware of ourselves and our identities, our place in the world, the illimitable potential of humanity, how people work, and our place in the universe. Understanding the depths of our capacities and expanding upon that with pure offerings of potential. We're able to discover those things that make us human, so that we can transcend any of our limits, overcome them with challenges that help us to become an ever more strong and resilient species, where we can say with intention, we are consciously evolving. With conviction, we're becoming an ever more intelligent species. We're using practical applications of our collective wisdom to make gains and mutual benefits. And I really think that that's where America should be going. If we're going to choose a direction to be able to go towards, we need to give ourselves an approach in which we can get there. And we need the type of president that says, you know what, this is all that we need to have so that we can achieve that together. And so I hope you will consider, in terms of how you want to go about choosing the next president of the United States, you will at least consider what I'm saying here. You know, I'm not here to live in some sort of, fanciful illusion that I want to be president, so just vote for me. I know that the chances of me becoming president are pretty much out of my favor, because of the fact that I'm not willing to play political games, and that I am not in the public spotlight. I am just offering something here that is actually something I believe will give opportunities and more chances for America to be in a better position than what we have been in present years. I am able to take on that responsibility. I'm able to take that on with conviction. And if I win the presidency, I would want it no other way than to bring everybody into the full meridian light of our governance, and so that they understand what I'm offering. And in terms of a vision for the future trajectory of America, moving them forward, what I'm offering is policy-wise. I'm offering beliefs that are set in stances that I know where the boundaries are of our planet. I know where boundaries are of our human capacities. I know that we need to have limits within our government so that we can liberate our people. Those are the sorts of things that I'm thinking of in conscionable terms of what I would do if I represented this nation as the president. I'm looking to empowering good humanity and to eliminating opportunities for bad humanity to express itself and to be gain momentum and advantages over others. I understand that my position in our national stage is a limited one. I'm not a popular person. I don't put myself out there in positions of grandstanding on public stages, because my intention is to be doing the work of finding ways that we can be fiscally responsible, finding ways that our nation can have policy that develops in us into a position of moral standing, and to make sure that our leaders are working in general in the best interest of humanity. You know, I believe that those who are put in positions of power need to be morally obliged to good humanity. And we need to focus on what we can do in those positions of power to bring that about for all people. And once enough people understand that, you know, with logic and reason and conscious consideration and a sense of knowing in their heart and feeling what's right, if they listen to what I'm offering and they think for themselves, this is exactly what America's been asking for and what America needs, well, I hope that they would consider someone like me to be able to vote in. I hope that what I've said somehow resonates with them on a level of what they're offering is something that I think that we need to have in our country. You know, regardless of your political parties or the likelihood of outcomes in terms of the election, I'm not here to play a part in a popularity contest. What I want is for people to consider what I'm offering and to see that I'm not trying to present a type of administration that's steeped in controversies. I want America to be a strong and thriving union, and I want that we can we make ourselves so strong that we can stand up against any unforeseeable realities. I want our future to be prosperous. I want our nation to be formidable. I want us to be able to be strong allies to other great nations, and I want us to take the stance of armed neutrality to make sure that the freedom, liberty, and justice for all that America has established is not going to be oppressed or to be attacked by outside aggressors that would have our union be disintegrated. You know, my ambitions are not to conquest and not to conquer, but rather to influence humanity to become its best version. And with that as the back of my mind, and then in the viewpoint of all the forward-thinking concepts that I'm taking into account in terms of where I would like to take this nation, I hope that people would be able to see that that's the type of trajectory we need to take when we are governing ourselves. We need to be able to give ourselves viable opportunities. We need to make sure that the people are brought into the full empowerment of government, and to make sure that the options that we are creating for ourselves in terms of our governance are liberating, that we are not subjecting ourselves to tyranny and despotism, that we are providing people with help and hope so that they can see potential in themselves, and so that they can see potential in a leader like me, and that they would choose for themselves to vote for someone like me rather than some old binary choice of the lesser evils. Not to say that the person is evil or this person is evil, but the concepts of how they are trying to approach things just are not serving for good humanity. And with that, I'm grateful for your valuable time and attention, for allowing me to address you in regards to this concept that I believe is truly important for America. And to know that regardless of any of the outcomes, my intention is to continuously pursue an opportunity for America to be an ever more healthy, sustainable, just, and peaceful place, so that we can help to foster and steward a world that is an ever more healthy, sustainable, just, and peaceful place. And I obviously have the conviction, I have the natural spirit, I have the desire, I have the want, I have the need. I have been implementing over years the plans of which I would be able to bring forth my administration. I have the desire to, once I become in that role, utilize the full force of resources I have to bring the people into the conversation of our governance, bring them into the involvement of our governments, give them a particular seat at the table, and make sure that they are doing everything that they can to help to advance this nation forward as well. This isn't just about voting in an individual person. Our presidency is about making sure that the people themselves are taking on the type of future that they want to live out of. And so with that, please consider when you go to vote for people, that you're voting for somebody that is actually going to bring out the future that you want to live in, and the future you would want your children to live in. And don't let it be about, the political infighting. Don't let it be about who you think is better or best over the other. What is best for our nation? What is best for the world? What is best for you? Think about that and consider with all relevancies of what I've said. I'm grateful for your valuable time and attention. Until next time, be well.